the Detroit Pistons have been maybe the best story in basketball this season, and it really hasn't been all that close. They went from being by far the most memed, made fun of, bottom of the barrel team in the NBA to just 1 year later transforming into a legit playoff contender, and not even a playoff contender, but a pretty much solidified playoff team that's going to be a very hard out that nobody wants to play against. In just one season, they were able to make that huge transition. And in this video, I want to get into what I think they did and all that. Like, I'm going to compare last year's team to this team, how I think they're forming this team, like how I think they got to where they are right now, and just some of the moves that I overall think is actually making them what they are this season, and then even getting into how I think their future may even turn out to be. So if that does sound interesting to you, please watch the video all the way through. And without further ado, let's get right into this video. So for the first part of the video, I'm going to be doing a comparison from the team last year to the Detroit Pistons team this season. Let's start off with the team from last year. Last year, the Detroit Pistons were by far the worst team in the Eastern Conference, where they finished with a 14-68 record. And for the second straight year, and for the third out of 4 seasons, they finished the worst in the Eastern Conference. So they have been awful for a very long time. And at the end of last year, there was really no reason to expect a huge turnaround in just one season. They were also the 5th worst efficiency ranking team on defense, and had the 4th lowest offensive efficiency ranking in the NBA as well. And they fired their head coach, Monty Williams, after just one season. So they had about as bad of a year as you possibly could have. You didn't improve at all from the year before, and the coach you hired to turn things around didn't even last a whole season because they fired him right as it ended. So literally could not have had a worse season. But now they currently find themselves in a complete 180 of that position, as they are currently at a 42-33 record. They are the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. They have the 9th highest defensive efficiency, the 15th best offensive efficiency, and their current coach, JB Bickerstaff, is in the running to win the Coach of the Year award in just his first season with the team. So they went from firing their coach to maybe having the Coach of the Year, a horrible offense and defense, to a very good defense and a pretty good offense, on top of the fact that they're a 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, and this is going to be one of their best finishes in years for this team as well. So like I said, a complete 180 has been had, and they are now a formidable opponent for anyone any given night, and they can beat anybody any given night as well. And now that we kind of got the comparison to see how drastic the change was, that naturally leaves a question like, what happened? How did this happen? How did the Pistons turn it around this fast? Well, that's really because I think they're really starting to find their identity, and their foundation has really started to form. As throughout this entire season, I would say the Pistons have started to form a reputation of being a scrappy team that's not going to back down for anyone, and that has been obviously spearheaded by a guy like Isaiah Stewart, who wants to fight every single person that he sees. He is the biggest crash out in the NBA, and it's not even close. But Isaiah Stewart is the poster child for what the Detroit Pistons culture is. They're going to play hard, they're going to talk shit, they're going to get in your face, and they're never going to back down no matter who they're playing. And they have a kind of very similar culture to what the Miami Heat have, but I would say the Pistons are more on the end of talking trash and getting into it, and the Miami Heat, although they are chippy, they don't really lean into it as much as a team like the Pistons does, which makes sense because of how young the Pistons are and how hungry they probably are as well after years of being the laughingstock in the NBA. And another huge thing is that their defensive potential is just unbelievable. It's already a top 10 defense in the league this year, but its potential is even higher, as you have guys like Azur Thompson, who is an absolute beast on the defensive side of the ball. You have Isaiah Stewart, who's a very solid defender, and then all the rest of the role players on your team as well are very solid defenders. So with your guys like that being led by a young guy like Azur and a young guy like Isaiah Stewart, this defense has a long way to grow, and as chemistry builds, as confidence builds, that defense should only get better and better. And keep in mind the fact that Azur Thompson missed a lot of the beginning of the season due to an injury, so if he was there, maybe that defensive rating would be even higher. But what is probably even more insane is the potential ceiling of this roster, as this roster right now is playing out of its mind. And from last year, you wouldn't have thought they had that good of a future, but looking at it this year, like, this team's future could be kind of insane, as Cade Cunningham is quickly turning into a superstar in front of everyone's eyes. At only 23 years old, he is averaging 25 points per game, 6.1 rebounds per game, 9.2 assists per game, on 46% shooting from the field, and 35% shooting from the three, and those are just unbelievable numbers for a 23-year-old, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if one day he can even get into All-NBA first team discussions. He might even be that already. He's probably going to make an All-NBA team this year. He's going to be a perennial All-Star most likely for the rest of his career for the foreseeable future, and could legitimately become one of the better players in the entire NBA, if he isn't already that, consider that. And I think this playoff stint is really going to put him on the map and show, if he can show out in the playoffs, I think a lot of people are really going to start putting respect that Cade Cunningham very much deserves. And then on top of that, they're doing this, by the way, without their debatably second best player on the roster in Jaden Ivey, as he has been out since January 1st with an injury, and he is a gigantic part to their offense when he is healthy. So a big reason why their offense is only middle of the road is because Ivey is out. And imagine if Ivey was back, and there are rumors that he could come back for the playoffs and could become healthy once again, and that would be a huge gain for this Detroit Pistons team, and maybe a huge shot of confidence and like motivation and energy going into the playoffs, having a well-rested Jaden Ivey. And also, Jaden Ivey, at only 23 years old, is debatably having the best season of his career right now before he got injured. So he also has a huge ceiling. He looks like a potential all-star, and it makes it even more impressive that the Pistons have been as good as they are despite him being out. And then a next guy I want to talk about is going to be Azur Thompson. Azur Thompson does not get the credit that he deserves. A lot of people focus on his twin, Amen Thompson, and rightfully so. Amen has been having a great season. But Azur Thompson, I had him right behind, or I think maybe even right in front of Amen Thompson going into his class, and he is an unbelievable athlete. His two-way potential is through the roof. He's already a stud on the defensive side of the ball. His offensive game has improved drastically, and although he kind of struggled a little bit coming back from injury, he has gotten way more comfortable, and he looks much better. And his offensive game, like I said, is improving leaps and bounds. And if he can keep on this trajectory, he legitimately could be a high-level starter to maybe even a star-level two-way player one day in the NBA, because he is a top 1% athlete. His defensive game is already there. His three-point percentage has already improved from year 1 to year 2, and he just looks like he's going to keep improving and improving. And if he can continue on that trajectory, there's no telling how high his ceiling could be. And then now Jalen Duren is, although I don't think his ceiling is that much higher. I think Jalen Duren is what he is, a very athletic, rim-protecting guy who can also be a lob threat, pick-and-roll threat type guy. But that's very valuable to have, because when that is your fifth option on your starting lineup, to have a pick-and-roll threat is very valuable, and a guy that can protect the rim consistently is very valuable. So I think Jalen Duren is going to be a great player and a great center for them for the foreseeable future. And then a guy who's not even going to really get mentioned in many videos about the Pistons, but Ron Holland, their current rookie, although he's having a very much roller coaster rookie season, he has ups, he has downs, his potential is undeniable. He is an unbelievable athlete. His defense is good, has huge potential. His offense has huge potential. And if his potential does hit, and he does hit his ceiling, the kid could become a superstar in just a few seasons. Now, yes, he has to develop a lot. He's very raw, but he does have all the tools there. If you watched him in the G League Ignite, he was unbelievable over there. And if he can just get to 50% of what his ceiling actually is, he is going to be a hell of a player for this Pistons team going forward. Now, I know it's probably hard to see because he's not having the greatest rookie season by any means, but I do very much think he's going to keep improving, and it's going to be very much fun to watch how he develops. And if the Pistons hit on this pick and Ron Holland, they're going to be a absolute problem, because you're going to have to deal with Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Azur Thompson, and Ron Holland, and then Jalen Duren is their fifth option. That's going to be one of the most athletic, lengthy teams in the entire NBA, and they're just going to be a hell to deal with on both sides of the basketball. And then even a guy like Isaiah Stewart, he should be the enforcer for the future. He should be their junkyard dog, kind of like their guy he's going to be their enforcer. No one's going to want to mess with him. He's going to be the guy that gets texts a lot, just fights a lot, but pretty much every team needs at least one guy like that on their roster, and that is exactly what Isaiah Stewart should provide for the foreseeable future. And then one of the last guys I want to talk about is going to be Marcus Sasser. Now, Marcus Sasser, another unsung hero of this roster, just an all-around great shooter to have off their bench. Probably won't ever be a star or even a starter or a consistent starter, but I do think Sasser is a very, very solid player. Overall, just plays his role very well and should be a guy that contributes for them off their bench for at least the foreseeable future. And then the last guy I'm going to talk about in this young core is going to be Bobby Klintman, their second-round pick of this season. And in my opinion, he could be a very big contributor to them in the future. He has a skill set that's very fun. I think he's like 6'10", 6'11", offensively very talented. He has a lot of talent, can guard 1 through 4, just all around a very solid player. And I think Bobby Klintman could be a guy that develops into something for them into the future. He's had a few G League games that are very solid and very interesting, and I just really like his skill set, so there's a very real chance he could become a contributor in the future for them as well. So just to kind of recap everything I said, this year they've had a complete 180. Their team has found their identity, and despite them already having leaps and bounds better than they've been in years, they're not even close to the ceiling of this roster due to them having one of the best young cores in the entire league right now, and I think their future is unbelievable. I think they're going to be a very fun playoff team to watch this season, and Detroit Pistons playoff games are going to be so fun to watch. Like, Pistons fans are going to be going crazy. I can't wait to watch it. Isaiah Stewart's probably going to be trying to fight everything in sight. They're going to be very fun games to watch, and overall, I think the Pistons are on the right trajectory. I think for the first time in a long time, they legit have a future that could lead them to very high heights, and their ceiling is through the roof. But unfortunately, guys, that's the move for this video. So comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you think the Pistons have what it takes to be a high-level playoff team? How far do you think this team can go in the future? Do you think they can ever make it to the finals in the future? I want your thoughts in the comment section below. And like, point to the like button, subscribe button, and the episode road me. And I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day, so you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.